Oh, I ruined my jeans at that, fuck. Hey, my name is Jonathan, and I wanted to say something about climate crisis. Because that's what it is. It's not global warming, it's not like climate change, it's climate crisis. Because this is so much more serious than people realize. Climate crisis. And what I want to say about climate crisis is to mention Mount Kilimanjaro in East Africa. It's the saddest thing about climate crisis, is the Mount Kilimanjaro. Because I used to live in Kenya for a couple years when I was a kid, and we went on safari, and Mount Kilimanjaro over the savannah, over Masai Mara and the Serengeti was so magnificent. Mount Kilimanjaro, the snow-capped mountain, the tallest peak in Africa, the continent of Africa, was so beautiful with like elephants and Cape buffalo and zebra in the foreground, and right up, sticking right up out of the savannah of Africa was snow-capped Mount Kilimanjaro, and it looked so profoundly beautiful, so magnificent. And that was back in the 80s when I was a kid, because I'm really old. But like, yeah, so Mount Kilimanjaro looks so beautiful. But today, like, I went back to Kenya recently, and it's so awful, so sad what Mount Kilimanjaro looks like, because the snow is melted. It's no longer a snow-capped mountain sticking out of the plains of Africa, and it looks awful. It looks so bad, and it's happened so rapidly. It's obviously man-made climate change. It's the most obvious sign of man-made climate change is Mount Kilimanjaro, because the snow is just all melted. It just looks like a big dirt hole sticking out of nowhere, and it makes it look so bad. I mean, that was a treasure to the entire continent of Africa, was the snow in Mount Kilimanjaro. Now it's all melted because of carbon-loving Americans, because Americans, they consume so much. Like, Americans make up only 5% of the entire world population of what Americans consume, 25% of all that is consumed. So it's basically America's fault. And what that is like if you remember the Taliban in Afghanistan, when like 15 years ago the Taliban blew up those beautiful Buddhist statues. Well, that is what Americans have done the entire continent of Africa. That is an act of war by Americans. Americans consume so much by carbon, all these huge carbon emissions coming from both the United States and China. But with China, it's because they're producing goods for Americans, because Americans consume so much. That is an act of war by Americans. That's no different than those Taliban blowing up those beautiful Buddhist statues in Afghanistan. That is an act of war against a treasure of Africa, is because of Americans' consumption and all this carbon that's destroyed the snow and it's caused the snow to melt off Mount Kilimanjaro. That is an act of war by Americans, and it's so sad that we as Americans did that to the people of Kenya and the people of Tanzania, destroying their treasure of beautiful Mount Kilimanjaro. And that's all I wanted to say, and you're awesome.